Welcome back to another episode of At the Conservators Bench. I am your host for this episode. I'm Mar, Paintings Conservator of the National Gallery of Singapore, and I work at the Heritage Conservation Center. In this series, we will be examining how one of Singapore's most prominent artists, Georgette Chen, went about creating her work. This time, we look at a piece that is perhaps a bit more personal to Chen, a portrait of her first husband, Eugene Chen. I am very excited to share more with you about this work, as this is one of my favorite paintings in the exhibition. Eugene Chen has been described by scholars as being one of the most important Chinese diplomats of the early 20th century. Chen was born in 1878 on the Caribbean island of Trinidad. After rising to become one of the island's most skilled lawyers, he left and moved to London. This is where he met Sun Yat-sen, the first president of the Republic of China. He will eventually become Sun's foreign minister in the 1920s. Eugene Chen always had a strong appreciation of art. While he was in Paris in 1927, he was introduced to a young Georgette Chen by Song Qing-ling, the wife of Sun Yat-sen. Despite some concerns from Chen's father because of the age gap between her and Eugene, they married in 1930. For Georgette Chen, Eugene proved to be a pillar of support in her journey as a professional artist. However, the following years were not kind to the couple. Due to Eugene Chen's political connections, the couple were placed under strict surveillance during the Sino-Japanese War in 1937. During this time, the Chens were confined within the French concession in Shanghai. Georgette Chen's work during this period highlighted the limited range of subjects she had. The only sitter available to her then was Eugene. When looking at these portraits of Eugene Chen, one can't help but feel the intimate relationship they shared. Chen's rendering is tender and personal, but Eugene Chen's troubled expression is also a clear reflection of the stormy political situation around the couple. The nature of this personal work makes us want to take a closer look at how it was made. At first glance, we can see that Chen meticulously constructed this painting with fast and saturated brushstrokes to render a vivid likeness of Eugene Chen. We can also see that she applied her colors directly onto the canvas, without premixing them on a palette. This shows she had a spontaneous method of paint with fast application. We wanted to take a closer look to learn more about her methods. So first, we examined the portrait under a microscope. These exposed charcoal lines under the paint show us that Chen sketched her sitter's features before applying the paint. We found these same traces of charcoal lines in many of the paintings we examined, showing that this is a technique she employed often. In the case of this portrait, it is easily observed as Chen left areas of canvas uncovered by paint. The next time you're in the gallery, have a closer look to see if you can find some of these charcoal traces. But don't forget, you should always be careful and keep at least 1 or 2 meters from the painting. Next, we used transmitted light to examine the work. We were able to discover the brush traces and gestures Chen used to create this portrait. It was wonderful to have this chance to observe these lines. It's almost like looking at the skeleton of a painting. We were able to see how she applied the paint delicately, following the contours of Eugene's face. We then used raking light to better understand the topography and texture of this paint layer. That's how we observed the clear impasto lines, which Chen applied with fast and short brushstrokes. Impasto is a technique where paint is laid on the canvas in thick layers. It adds definition, pushing a piece from flat to three-dimensional. If we look closely at how Chen rendered the nose, we can see that she used a thin brush to create a defined stroke on the nose bridge. I find it striking how this creates the effect of illumination, which helps to give the portrait a sense of volume. This portrait of Eugene Chen was very rewarding to study, as there were so many traces of her technique that we could observe. The care and attention that Georgette Chen showed in this piece is especially poignant when you realize that Eugene Chen passed away not long after this portrait was done. When contrasting this against her earlier works, it's evident how these methods evolved along the decades, culminating in her signature painting style and use of color in her later years. In the next video, we will be moving to more familiar shores as we explore one of Georgette Chen's work when she arrived to Singapore, Malay Maiden. Till then,